Hi, my name is Casey Flowers, and today I'm going to be discussing how to set your own schedule when nobody else is setting it for you. This is a little bit of a different kind of video than I usually make, as I've been focusing more on moon phases, astrology, and other kinds of spirituality. But today I wanted to give you some more practical advice. And keep in mind, this is just my own personal advice. And there are plenty of other resources for you to look at to find out what works best for you. A lot of people think that they would love to work from home, and they don't realize how much they like structure until it's actually gone. I personally have been working part-time from home for about 3 years now, and I found that it's uniquely rewarding, but also very challenging. Ultimately because you have to be taking constant accountability and responsibility for your own work in a way that a lot of people are not used to having to do on their own. So before I get into some advice, I wanted to talk about 3 paradigms or archetypes of workers that I've identified. Again, workers who are working from home, although I'm sure that this spills out into the regular workplace as well. I'm going to talk about these 3 styles, the pros and cons of each, and then I'll be using those later as I give some more advice. So as I cover these, be honest with yourself and see which one or ones that you identify with. My purpose with this is so that way you can identify the best parts of your work style as well as the work styles that you might need to take better care of. Okay. Number 1 is the overscheduler. This is the classic type A person. These workers thrive off of to-do lists and truly do have a hit of dopamine every time that they get to cross something else off. These people are self-motivated and driven by results. Overschedulers get shit done. Should I say shit? Do I say shit on this channel? Okay, they get shit done. They not only set work hours, but they also specify tasks for within each work day, sometimes scheduled down to the minute. Now, this might seem like the best style, but keep in mind that that might just be because of our Western ideas of what success looks like in the first place. But that's a whole different video. So the pros of being an overschedule is 1, it's #girlboss time. These people get shit done. They set measurable goals every day, they meet their deadlines on time, and this style is specifically helpful for particularly busy days. However, the cons of this style is that it doesn't allow for flexibility. You also may spend a lot of extra time just planning and not actually getting the work itself done. Overschedulers might also overschedule. They might be putting too many things on their plate, which then leads to a perpetual feeling of not doing enough, even when they're doing plenty more than the rest of us. Style number 2 is the procrastinator. These workers wait until the last minute to do everything. But don't let the connotation of the word procrastination make you feel shameful or anything like that. It just means that you've gotten used to relying on deadlines for motivation. I've noticed that this is a common style with people who are right out of school just because they're so used to having that deadline that they have to meet in order to get the certain grade. But ultimately, work is not like that, and you'll just lose your job instead of getting an F. So if this is you, you can learn how to work with it rather than against it. So let's talk about some pros to this style. Procrastinators continually prove their ability to work under pressure. Some people just do their best work when they are up against a deadline. Additionally, procrastination can teach us how to work more efficiently and quickly when we are working. One more overlooked pro to procrastination is that it may be good for people who struggle with self-doubt. Some people don't like to have projects done too early because then they will obsess over the minor details in a way that is detrimental to themselves and to the project. So sometimes people just need to push it up until the deadline so that way they can get it done and get it out of the way. Of course, there are many cons to procrastination as we have been taught, but the ones that I've identified is that it might not be good for particularly creative or inspired work, because if you push things till the last second, you might not get that perfect revelation that you're looking for. It could potentially cause extra stress than if you would have just gotten it done earlier, and it could potentially cause oversights in details and lazy work. And number 3 is the energy spiker. This is my type. I am this type. This type is me. The energy spiker doesn't really plan out what's going to happen so much day to day, but instead thinks more broadly about what needs to get done in perhaps the week or the month. They then pay attention to their natural energy indicators and work when they feel like it and don't work when they don't feel like it. Does this seem a little lazy? I'll explain why it is not, because again, it's mine and I'm going to defend it till the death. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe their work suffers as their mood suffers. And if there's no immediate need to produce the work, maybe they could benefit from waiting until they feel more equipped to work. That is one of the benefits from working at home, after all, and setting your own schedule. But that means that these folks, including me, need to learn coping methods so that way they can follow through on the times where work doesn't sound quite as appetizing but still needs to be done. The pros here is that I personally think that this produces some of the best quality work, because if you're only working when you feel inspired to and not when you don't, perhaps you can acquire some really stellar work that you wouldn't have been able to do if you were just sitting in an office 9 to 5. Another thing is that it honors your body's natural energy cycles, which is great for people with chronic physical or mental conditions. If you have this style of work and you do work when you feel inspired to, if you need to take the afternoon or the day off, you can do so without feeling excessive shame. But of course, the cons are that this is unreliable. It's bad for people who are self-starters, and it's bad for people who struggle with motivation in general, because if you never feel like working, you might never work. So those are the 3 styles. Whatever style that you are, there are universal tips that will help you maximize your schedule while you're working. Number 1 is very important. Set working hours based on your individual energy rhythms. If you are a morning person, set your hours in the morning. If you are an afternoon person, set your hours in the afternoon. If you are a night person, still set your hours in the afternoon, because if you start too late, you're gonna go to sleep late and then you're gonna wake up late, and that's bad. But you do you. Your end time might vary day to day based on your workload, but if you can set a consistent start time, you'll find that your body gets into the natural rhythm of working from home sooner rather than later. Overschedulers will have an easy time with this one, so this is more for the procrastinators and the energy spikers. But seriously, don't schedule yourself to fail. Schedule yourself to succeed. If you have a hard time getting through 8-hour workdays and you have a hard time unwinding on your days off anyway, consider working shorter shifts more days a week. And conversely, if you like to let go and unwind for 3 days, then work longer shifts during a shorter week. Nobody is in charge of this but you, so don't try to please some sort of idealized version of yourself. Honor where you're at now. So now that we have the idea of setting your work hours to maximize your potential, we're going to talk about how to maximize this time. Get a planner. No matter what profession you're in, get a planner. If you keep track of what you're doing every day, you're not going to have to spend so much time per day just reorienting yourself and figuring out what you have to do. You can write notes to your future self. You can see notes from your past self. Get a planner. It'll also help you to be able to visualize deadlines better. And if you're having trouble figuring out what your natural work cycle is, this can help. I recommend Inner Guide planners. I've had them for the last 2 years. I love them because they have the monthly view, they have monthly goals broken down into a bunch of different types, and they also have hourly, where you can actually figure out what you're doing and when during your day. They also have little nuggets of wisdom, ways to keep track of your mood, and just places to keep track of how you're taking care of your body and your mind and your spirit and all of the other parts of yourself rather than just work. I literally didn't look at what this said, so I hope there's nothing embarrassing on it. Is there anything? Come on. So yeah, I love these planners. Can't recommend them enough. So moving on to other advice, you may have heard that it's better to get dressed before you work from home. And this definitely works for some people, myself included. But even on days where I don't get dressed, I do, that sounds bad. But something that you might not have heard is to set time aside, like 10-15 minutes before you're supposed to start work, just to write or type. Now, non-writers, hear me out. With traditional work days, you usually have a commute time. And during that commute time, what do? You think about the things that you need to get done in the day. You think about the people that you need to contact. You think about the best way to get stuff done. Or maybe you just zone out and listen to the radio. Either way, you have that little bit of time to get yourself ready to work. If you could start your workday with like 10 to 15 minutes of free flow writing or typing, you're gonna get your brain started, and it's gonna be easier for you to accomplish your tasks, especially writing tasks during your day. This writing could be about anything. It could be journaling, it could be about your dream last night, but it could also be about your to-do list or the things that you wanna do that day. Literally anything will help get your brain juices flowing. Brain juices flowing. Another piece of advice is to cut down on the distractions. Seriously, limit your notifications on your phone and on your computer during your preset work times. It's not so much about having a kind of distraction, because some people like to have music or a podcast in the background, but it's about limiting any potential new distractions that get us out of the headspace and take up our precious time. Completely close out of tabs that have a running notification count and come up with a plan to check on those tabs in a productive way. It is important to get back to customers quickly, but please do not use that as an excuse to keep refreshing social media throughout the day. So some experts say to do 40 to 50 minutes of work and then take a 10 to 15 minute break to recharge. This would be a great time to check your email, to get a drink of water, to grab a snack, and to respond to any customer inquiries. Another one of my hot takes is that some people think that you should schedule for a lunch break, but I don't necessarily agree. I personally like to keep going through my day and not really take time off and then just go back to it. But that being said, it is important to eat. I highly suggest that if you don't schedule for a lunch break, to make sure that you're meal prepping and having snacks that you can just easily grab, so that way you're not going through your entire shift without eating. If you're getting tired halfway through, that might be your body's way of telling you that you need to consume more nutrients in order to sustain your cognitive ability. So listen to your body. And again, just prepare for it. My final tip is to refer back to weekly and monthly goals often. If you're using a planner, there should be a section where you talk about your weekly and monthly goals, and you should be looking back onto that almost every day. There might be times where you finish a project and you might be tempted to end your workday early just because you got something important done. Even if you don't directly work on them that day, you could maybe use that time to come up with some specific action plans, so that way you can get that done easier once you get to it. Don't overlook the planning process as not being productive. It is. It's very important. Just ask those overschedulers. And finally, whatever style you are, there are plenty of accountability groups on social media where you can actually build community based on keeping each other accountable. That's why it's called an accountability group. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been putting out new videos every Monday/Tuesday in order to preserve my energy spiker style. And I've been releasing those on my Facebook page, Sacred Flowers, and on my YouTube channel, Casey Flowers. Make sure to leave any other tips about managing your time down in the comments, because I love learning about this stuff. And I'll see you next week. Bye!